Hello, everybody, and welcome to the esports.net Rocket League show all about Rocket League and everything going on within it. My name is Oliver Bass, joined alongside by PyroJ, and Pyro, we have found ourselves at the end of the Wildcard stage. It is the first event to the World Championship this year for the RLCS 22-23 circuit, and now after 4 days of competition from different teams all over the planet, we've now found ourselves with only 8 remaining going through to the next stage to join the 8 invited based on year-round land results. And I gotta say, it's been an interesting wild card. There have been some upsets, there have been some flop-outs from some teams, but all around it resulted in some highlight plays. We've got some highlights to go through from each of the days. So Pyro, why don't you kick us off with day number 1?
Feel like a great team to kick us off with is Twisted Minds. They played Pioneers, and they didn't just play them. There's a little bit of domination happening here. One thing I've been so overjoyed to witness about Twisted Minds and how they succeed is their team plays. That 3-man play from one side of the field to the other. You just see how they're working on a Twisted Mind, but one mind pass. It's exceptional to witness. Twisted Minds coming out big here in that first match on day 1, making sure everyone knows what they're capable of. Surely more to that story as we continue. But the next clip that I want to move to is from another match. This is actually G1 versus Crew. Crew put on a bit of a stomping as well, honestly, in round 1. People didn't know how the Sam EU matchups would go in Wildcard, but Sam, they wanted to say early that they were here to stay. Crew caps off their first match with Jufinho. Game tied, off the ceiling, slots it. I just love this shot because you don't get to see a ton of individual plays. It's a team plays that we were just talking about that gets you past other teams, but Jufinho says, nah, time winding down. I'm kicking this in off the ceiling. Perfect flip right under the crossbar. It's gorgeous. Final final play that I have to call out was the match of the day. Team Secret versus SSG. Time's winding down. No, it's winding up actually, because it's an overtime of game number 6. Space Station trying to kick Secret to the curb. And what better way than an electric save from Hoxer? Nobody's saving this 9 times out of 10. There's just no way out. You're own goaling it. But Hoxer instead flips backwards, double taps it off his own crossbar, and Space Station actually go on 10 seconds later to score the OT winner and win this series. What's clear on day 1 of Wildcard is it's going to take highlight individual performances that all mesh together to win against these big international teams.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not many teams were really able to do that. In terms of day 1, it was not very many upsets. It was pretty standard. Day 2 is where we start to get into, I would say, the thick of it, where everything goes a little bit crazy. And again, like you said, we found ourselves with many international matchups, including an international matchup which, well, you kind of highlighted yesterday, talking about South America and MENA both kind of being on the rise here. We had a play from Team Falcons, a passing play amongst the entire team. It kind of stood out to me as they took themselves a, I believe, 4-2 win over that team to advance to 2-0. Again, the Falcons, which had missed out on the last major where Rule 1 instead of represented for MENA, were able to make a top 4. But the good thing is that for both of the teams coming out of MENA, they were able to find themselves some decent starts here. 2-0 for both sides. Falcons going on to find themselves a incredible finish here, making it all the way to a 2-0 start, like we said. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves with some other impressive showings from regions outside of NA and EU. I would be remiss without mentioning Elevate. Elevate, a team from APAC, I would say mishmash team of APAC players and players from all around, including Kami, one of the players to go through Wildcard last year as a representative for OCE. But this time, while donning the Elevate name, they were able to take one of the biggest wins in RLCS LAN history, taking down their first international competition outside of SSA or APAC themselves. They found a win versus G1 and EU number 7 seed, and this dagger from Kami at the very end of Game 5 kind of showed Elevate were no slouches, and neither were APAC. This is a brand new team, it's a brand new region that is showing themselves off on an international stage. They go to 1-1, And well, a couple other teams also unfortunately had to join those guys at that 1-1 or at that 0-2 stage. We found ourselves with 2 other SSA teams within 0-2. APAC's other seed goes down to 0-2. But 2 teams had to decide which one was going to join the Armenia teams in that upper bracket. Complexity make it through, but so do G2. G2 find themselves a dagger at the very end of a Game 7 overtime. I don't think we can overstate how incredibly important this matchup was after so many people doubting G2 and talking about how they, maybe weren't going to play as well at this Worlds. They finally take out what was the #1 seed for North America coming into the last LAN and find themselves a 2-0 start coming out of day 2. Pyro, it was a good day for a lot of places, except for EU. EU, I feel like at this point, was probably a little bit surprised to see that G1 was not only 0-2, but they had multiple teams at this point that were 1-1.
Yeah, it really started to flip-flop here in Wildcard. Teams weren't really sure what position they were in as the 2-0 games, the ones to see who was moving on. One of them is this Middle Eastern, North Africa matchup. That's where I want to get to here when we turn into the day 3 highlights. This is Falcons versus Twisted Minds. And in game 4, it's a big passing play from O'Khaled. Flip reset, dish it down to TRK. And this goal is nothing but instrumental because it kicks off the spree that Falcons go on, the reverse sweep, the only one recorded in RLCS LAN history. What a performance from the Falcons. And this is also a team who isn't competing or representing their region at the top. You always think, oh, Falcons, yeah, that's #1 MENA. No, not this time around. They're down in the wild card. So the big thing here that they prove against their brethren of Twisted Minds is that, we can represent the top of this region. We're out in Swiss 3-0. Now, in day 3, there's more teams that want to move through and try and give themselves the best position to qualify out of Swiss. Another one of those teams being Moist. This isn't a matchup where anyone necessarily qualifies through, but it is a chance to really flex the mechs. I love this play from Cash. An unreal flip reset into the corner, turning into this lightning fast redirect pass over to his teammate Joyo. I would have been remiss to not call out Moist at all in this video because this is a team of showstoppers. Joyo in particular, even just being in position and being that reliable shot taker to finish the play. Whether Cash is in the Octane or a Dominus hitbox or even the Fennec throughout this whole event, he's performing at the top level like this is really fun to see. But while there have been a lot of ups, we've also mentioned there have been lows. And while this G2 Complexity series did feature a lot of highs, I mean, G2 in particular, Bass, I'm sure you can talk about this, are looking really good in G2 from the old into the new. I love to see it, but not a lot of people love to see what happened here. It was a crazy mix-up of shots that probably should have went in. Great resiliency. Don't get me wrong, from G2 on the defense, this was exceptional, but then they turned it around on the transition and can't close a nearly open net. For some reason, nobody could score. It was baffling. It bewildered me as I watched it, but I watched with excitement. It was true entertainment of the esport, and not every highlight, not every clip of this esport has to be the perfect shot. It could be pure debauchery like this.
Every once in a while, we get to see a little bit of chaos unfold from even the very best of the best. And the crazy thing is that if you thought day 3 was chaotic, welcome to day 4, where chaos was abundant in multiple different rounds. That's right, we're not just going through a single round of Swiss at this point. We actually have got rounds 4 and 5, including in day 4, and well, that's also going to wrap up the Wildcard event. So let's talk about it. How did this one wrap up? Well, on the lower side of the bracket, that's where the upsets continue to happen. That Elevate squad from APAC that we spoke about just a little while ago, guess what? They were doing it again. More overtime victories against regions that they had never taken wins from before after a Game 6 overtime dagger from a vert pass out to a fake in the corner to a realized shot on target sent Pioneers packing. OCE unfortunately find themselves one less representative going into the last round, and while Power do find themselves a way into that round, they are only accompanied by a single other EU team coming from the bottom side. And after a, well, let's say lackluster performance out of G1, who, like we said, lost to Elevate, most people thought that it would be Oxygen taking the win against G1 and joining everybody in round 5. Lo and behold, G1 repeat their performance from the very last event of the online season where they swept against Oxygen, this time a 4-1 victory, still 3 games above, and those 3 teams move on to round 5 from the lower half. In the upper half, though, things got a little bit crazy with more international matchups, some of which had some expected results. After not a great performance versus Falcons the day prior, like you said, Twisted Minds unfortunately find themselves 0-4 again, second sweep in a row against Crew, who take themselves a victory and a pass through to the main event of the World Championship. Joining them would also be other teams like Complexity after their loss to G2 the day prior. They bounce back, sweeping Team Secret, who have to go and compete in the 5th round. And the only other team to join them was Space Station Gaming. The NA versus EU debate has been very, very hotly contended here, I would say, for a while, Pyro. But in this instance, Space Station proved that they were the #1 team coming out of North America for a reason, and this overtime victory from Arsenal showed that the team continued to have the ice. Going into that overtime, one of my favorite facts, they were 7-for-8 in overtime victories their entire tournament. Ice unparalleled, a single loss, and Arsenal's flip reset like this, or I guess the fake out of it, really go to show that this team was individually starting to click, and they find themselves a way through out of Wildcard and into the main event. And that left us with one last round. 3 matches determined the final 3 spots, and my goodness, were they something special. Moist versus G1, Twisted Minds versus Power, and Team Secret versus Elevate. And I gotta say, although the matches more or less went expected, with Team Secret ending the Cinderella run of Elevate, who have to go down in a 4-2 fashion, Twisted Minds were able to bounce back. They find themselves a 4-0 sweeping victory over Power, including some passing plays, which I have to say were rather fantastic. The team, again, representing that MENA cohesion as MENA sent both of their representatives through to the main event. And the only other team that would join them there would be Moist Esports, the singular representative coming from EU. It's crazy to say, Pyro, after so much hot debate about what regions have power, what regions are looking good on the overall scale, people seem to think EU was the definitive #1. Yet despite getting 3 entrances through to the wildcard stage, only 1 team is represented at the end of it. It was a crazy wildcard, full of some crazy plays and crazy surprises the whole way through.
Yeah, and you know what? Somehow I think those people are still going to say, well, actually, G1 this, and Oxygen that, and EU still on top, you know, because it's, you just know these people, these fanatics, and while I might even agree, it is a dominant performance from, yes, North America, but Sam and Mina. What an experience to see. And yeah, I'll echo your shout out to APAC as well, because not a whole lot of people saw Elevate going the full rounds of Swiss, but they really broke some new barriers and new finish lines to try and beat again at another international event. So really cool to see that we have so much international representation, Bass, not only at the wild card, but in the main event coming up soon.
Main event's coming up soon, and as we said, the teams that we just mentioned are going to be joining the 8 invited teams that have also made it through as well. Those 8 invited teams are going to be Carmine Corp, Team Liquid, Vitality, BDS, Gen G, Mobile One Racing, FaZe Clan, NIP, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Rule 1. The total tally for all of the regions, by the way, gets out to a nice even split all around. 6 teams for North America, 6 teams for, or excuse me, actually, I think I'm getting the numbers wrong. 5 teams for North America, 5 teams for EU, 3 for Middle East, and 3 for South America here. Unfortunately, no representatives from APAC or OCE were able to make it to the main event, but it gives us a nice sort of rounded number here. After the debate back and forth between, no SSA either, unfortunately, here. As we do find ourselves, though, with 5 NA, 5 EU, settling the debate once and for all, as they do get even footing going into the main event. And that main event, by the way, is going to be kicking off on Tuesday. Make sure to pay attention to the Rocket League channel, as all of the games are going to be kicking off pretty early in the morning. I believe it's been an 8 a.m. start for pretty much all of the matches so far, except for today, where it was, Well, you know,
6.
6 a.m., which was a early start, but as an APAC fan, I was very happy to join up for that one. But like we said, pay attention to the Rocket League channel, pay attention to what is upcoming, because we are going to crown a brand new world champion by the end of next weekend. So make sure that you study up on all the videos we've got available, and we will see you guys next time. This has been the esports.net Rocket League show. We hope you guys have enjoyed, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good one.